What's up, everybody? This is Roberto with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sports Center, and I have here with me my first place winner, Hunter Lloyd, and second place runner-up, Santino Bradford. They're going to give us their deck profiles today and discuss, how they came up with what they came up with. You finally get to see the list. Everybody's been asking me about their list. We'll talk to them for a little bit, and then we're gonna go from there. So give me 1 second, guys, and we're gonna get this thing started, man. We're gonna get it started. I'm excited, and I hope all of you are. It's gonna be a very interesting, a very interesting deck profile because a lot of people have been asking for these deck profiles, especially Hunter Lloyd's 60 card deck list. And lately, people have been blowing me up about Santino's Dragon Link deck list. Not sure this is what they're taking in that, so I can't tell you guys that. But I know a lot of people are ready to copy these deck lists. Get everybody, get the link everywhere so everybody can see. And this is you guys did great this whole tournament, man. I was really, really surprised. Hunter, I did not think that deck was that good. I've been talking about your deck the past few days, man. It's crazy. It's really insane. Alright, got it posted almost everywhere. Alright. So first, guys, first deck list we're gonna go over is gonna be Santino Bradford's Dragon Link deck list. I got a lot of emails about his, a lot of Facebook messages about his list. He's gonna talk about his list. He's gonna talk about his tournament experience, how it was leading up to the finals. Again, first place was Hunter Lloyd, who won $350. Second place was Santino Bradford with 150. Both of these players went through the bracket. Hunter played some absolute killers, and he took out on the other side with his 60 card Plunder Runick deck. The deck was amazing. Tino on his side of the bracket was running through the competition all the way to the finals, and it was overall a good experience. Very excited. Santino, we're about to get ready to let you jump into your deck profile. Do you have any shout outs or anything you want to give before we get into this deck profile?
Yeah, of course. Again, my name is Santino Bradford. If you know me, if you're a Florida local, you've probably seen me at enough of the events, whether they're regionals or 3v3s. I'm, very recognizable in the South. Again, just wanted to shout out my YouTube channel, The YGO Process. Again, we're kind of building a small channel for the North Florida scene and just Florida all in general. Really starting to put more Florida back on the map and really just get the name back out there. I think, we're falling under the radar a little bit, but, just trying to help promote. Again, just want to shout out Hunter Lloyd. Again, he played phenomenally in the finals. Again, all credit to him. I've got no excuses. His deck is a very good deck. And just shout out to Jacksonville, everybody in Jacksonville. And biggest shouts out to my brother, Bradley. Again, he is the reason I took this deck. It was something I was considering moving into the next format with the ban list and support that we were getting. And so he's been playing this deck far longer than I have, and he kind of helped me out a little bit. He didn't do so well in round one, so I definitely didn't think I was going to do good. But we had two different takes on the deck in general, and so I think the build that I went with was just a little bit more consistent in terms of how I would play, a little bit more conservative. But overall, just shout out to everybody in Florida, and again, Roberto for always holding amazing tournaments. So.
All right, appreciate it, Santino. Without further ado, let's get this deck list on the screen.
Right, yeah. So for the Dragonlink deck that I took, it was fairly standard. Again, you hear that a lot, but I chose to go with a pretty consistent approach if I could. I wanted my deck to be able to open up every hand and play. This deck normally has issues where, if you don't have the proper resources in your starting hand, you could always end up passing turn, which there were some games that I did. So I wanted a proper balance between going second cards and just main deck cards. I thought this would have like a rough cash tier matchup. But again, everything else I would end up beating. Post ban list, I didn't know how strong cash would be. Glory be to God, I did not play a lot of them because the deck is still very, very good. But I figured with just the amount of main deck bestials and the few hand balance that, I'd be able to combat them pretty well. So again, you have the standard lineup of bestials, just the 3 Lubellion, Magnemut, Soornir, the Baldrake, and then the Druis Worm. Again, these are just self-explanatory. You draw Lubellion, you just feel like you're just steps ahead immediately. The bestials are just very good into rogue matchups. My first match against Walter Jewell, and even when I played Avery, they came up so much. It was, they almost turned the tide without you even having to commit many cards. I know, moving into it, the beast play and the regained, normally if you end up getting hand trapped or kind of just pressure out of the game, having to end on seal, just provide you so much advantage. So, it's really just like a bestial control deck, if anything. I try to call it Dragonlink as much as you can, but the bestials kind of just do everything you need to. Legionnaire, self-explanatory. We incorporated the prize card as like a last-second addition. I wanted to try it out. That card is terrible. I probably would not play it moving forward. Like I said, I wanted a good amount of normal summons to where if I could at least see them, they could get started. Chamber Maiden was something that theoretically could come up against, I can't remember which matchup it was, but I know that me and Bradley ended up talking about it before. Chamber Maiden was good. It plays pretty well into, what's the matchup? It plays really good into Shifter, I believe. So we played Seyfried as well, but again, those cards are self-explanatory. I probably increased the rocket count moving forward, especially with cash tier. I think I played Hunter in the finals. He banished my one tracer off of one of the Runick spells, and I didn't realize just how much it depleted my engine, but everything else is self-explanatory.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then the side deck again, just comprising of 3 evenly, 2 Lightning Storm, 2 Cosmic, 2 Dark Ruler, Tactics, Thrust and Ghost Spell. I figured that going first, I didn't need to set up the craziest board, and going second, if I could just see blowout cards to where I can simplify the game state, the bestials just thrive in a simplistic game state in general. You can really just begin to out-resource your opponent. This deck is almost like a mid-range deck the way we built it, but it has just so much OTK potential, again, if you just play it correctly. And then again, the extra deck, you got your standard stuff like the Striker Dragon, Pisty, Whirlwind. Again, we played Romulus, 2 of the Spheres, Masquerena, and just really just standard Dragonlink stuff. I guess, it gets a tad bit more intricate when you get into Chaos Angel and the Dispatter, but for the most part, it's really just a standard Dragonlink deck list. It's nothing too innovative. I just wanted to be able to open up every hand and play. And again, this was a deck I was considering for Nationals moving forward with cards like Assault Synchron coming out, potentially trying the Brave Engine with a few other things, and the chaos cards I think it's Shadows, Light, and Duality. It was something I wanted to just potentially get a feel for if I was going to consider taking it. So that's why I pretty much chose it for this event. And I think every other matchup was fairly decent, but I knew if Hunter ended up making the finals, that was going to be a complete mismatch for me. And it was. So, but other than that, like I said, it was nothing too intricate about it.
I do remember you saying that leading up to.
Yeah. I literally was watching the bracket. I was like, man, if somebody does not put that deck out, it is going to be a horrific finals for me.
So,
I think moving forward, the Tournament of Power kind of started before the Battles of Legends set. I think more than likely.
So if there was something you would change about it,
Yeah, I think like I said, we would probably cut talents. I'd probably play like the new Sky Striker Link because that card's just like generic light and darks. And it's actually just like very good. I was debating on side decking some of the virus cards that would be like applicable towards like certain monsters where you're going to potentially end up putting in the extra deck and main deck later on. I might put impermanence to 3, and I think like moving forward into the meta, like you probably just cut the Chamber Maiden package. Like it was decent, but I don't know. There's like a lot that I ended up learning about the deck, like just playing in the few matches that I did. So there's like a lot of cards from like the Battles of Legends that actually kind of support this deck in the long run. There's just so many different variations to play it. Like, you've got your 60 card pile versions. You just got, certain extender versions that you can play. There's more bestial controls that just completely center around the bestials. You just kind of have to figure out exactly what you want to do with it and then kind of build it for that. So if there's an appropriate deck list for nationals, I may consider it, but playing this deck in the cash tier and D-shifter is just not, it's not as optimal as you'd like it to be.
That is a very tough one. All right, so 45 card main deck, 15 card side, 15 extra. Everybody, this is the deck list. It will be posted on the channel soon. Sometime tonight, I'll have both of the deck lists posted. That was Santino Bradfords deck list. So now we're about to get ready to go into Hunter LLoyd's deck list. And he is playing the 60 card Plunder Runick. This is this list is crazy, guys. It's insane. And before we get into Hunter LLoyd's deck list, Hunter, do you have any shout outs or anything you would like to give?
Yeah, I have a lot of people. I'm also from Florida base as well. I want to shout out like all my friends from like South Florida, Willie, Nicole, etc. All my friends basically from Prodigy Games. Thank you for supporting me and doing everything like to help me. I'm happy that I could partake in this tournament, so thank you so much. And I'm happy that I could finally play in one of these. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, no problem, man. I appreciate you for joining. I actually did not know you were from Florida. That's exciting. I didn't know that we got another Florida boy in here.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually pretty close with a lot of your players, surprisingly.
All right, guys, without further ado, the deck list you all been waiting for. Yeah, Jeremy Mitchell has spoken very highly of you. I can say that.
Yeah.
Very, very highly of you.
I've stayed with him for a couple of events. He's a cool guy. For the deck list, usually
guys,
with like
here goes Hunter's list, man. I know you all been excited about it.
Do you want me to explain anything specifically, or do you just want me to go like card by card?
You can go card by card. Well, you can really explain the stuff that you feel needed to be explained. Some stuff is self-explanatory for the people.
Okay. Most people usually wonder of like why play 60 cards within like a Plunder deck. Usually the reason is because there's just obviously bad cards you want to draw. So like Griffin Rider, Dracoback, Redbeard's terrible to draw. Cobalt Eagle's terrible to draw. You don't want to draw Fountain, etc. So like the thing is like when you play a deck like this where like one card theoretically should go trade for 2 of their cards, you just want to see a lot of the different types of engines within your deck. And so every single ratio of these cards is like mathematically proven to be correct. There's 13 Plunder cards within the list. And so what that'll do for you is that it makes it so you have at least one of the opening 5 cards in your hand should be a Plunder card to play the game. And any Plunder card will just make it so that you can make your engine and at least draw 3 cards by itself. One from the Blackbeard on your turn, one on their turn, and then whatever ship you're making to make it so that you can keep extending and pushing through the board. The worst engine out of the 3 would obviously be the right cards, but you just need those cards to play through like Shifter and Rise Hard and stuff. Just because those cards are very powerful, and it's just like a free way to trigger tactics if they have a Rise Hard on the board. The level also for right token is pretty good because it allows you to make Yord without like really overextending it or anything. And they also play with Lava Golem really well, so that's the reason why Lava Golem's in the list. Lava Golem specifically is also a fire, so you can make Brawn, and most decks don't really have a fire, so Brawn's like the hardest ship to make theoretically. And it's also a 2/5 defender, which means like if you have a field spell or something, even though you can't really battle phase turn 1, you can usually just beat over for free. The reason why I like this like Runick deck compared to like other ones is because this one has a lot more clear, consistent clear every turn. Because you just have like Brawn, which is Cosmic Cyclone, or Morik, which is Karma Cut. But you also have like a Negate in List, which is just Divine Wrath. And so it doesn't mean that you're completely relying on the Runick cards. Like you can just the Plunder cards by themselves are able to play. Obviously, like Whitebeard is the best one to draw because he can float. The worst one to draw objectively by himself is Black Eyes. I hate that card because he is always by himself in my hand, but it is what it is. For the Runick cards themselves, I'm playing 18 of the quick plays and then 2 fountain, which makes it 21. And so what that'll do is it makes it you want to see ideally like 2 to 3 Runick cards in your hand. Because half of them are either disruptions or they're extenders, and the fact that you're just E-Telly for a level 2 and all of your good cards are level 4 extenders to make Coral Dragon to pop a card and draw a card later is just insane. I also like this deck with the Runick cards because they have a lot of really good discard outlets. So like a problem with most Runick decks, like for example the Sprite one, like the Runick Life Twin Sprite one, is that they just don't have a good discard. Like you can't really do anything with them. So the fact that you're playing like Rainbow Bridge or Whitebeard or Golden Hair or even like scenarios where you can have like Pitch Water Enchantress or Bluebeard, like every single one of those is good. So you might as well just like outvalue your opponent because a Runick card will search a card, and then you'll gain the +1 off whatever you discard. So it's like in theory you're still at like 5 to 6 cards, so they're 1. And even if they throw like an Imperm on Hugin, which is like a common thing people do. Like if you just like pitch a Rainbow Bridge, it doesn't really matter, you know. Another thing is the deck really can't get like board any of the popular
I've
board
got a
breakers right now.
question.
Go ahead. What was your question?
So the whole tournament, I feel like you never brick. Like it's hard to explain.
Well, obviously there's like unplayable hands. So like
Does this deck like how like what slows this deck down?
a lot of the time one of the biggest strengths of the deck is like a lot of people don't really know how to play against it. And so it's actually just really hard to play against, especially now with the other engines. I think it was game 1 against Santino. I drew my draw 3 was like Griffin Rider Illegal Knight, and that was terrible because I didn't have like any other cards to play. I just knew that if it came back to me though, I would never died. Because I think I drew like 4 cards on his turn. It was like Change of Heart, Griffin Rider Illegal Knight, and a Runick card. I think it was Slumber. And I knew I just wasn't dead because like I got to a point where I outed enough cards on the previous turn to where it doesn't matter, if that makes sense. I think a card counter to this deck is really just like the early game. You have to outpace it really fast. Because like the longer it goes on, because this deck can play for a very long time, if that makes sense. Just because it's able to grab back so many resources between the bird and Yord.
Yep.
hand traps also, I guess, are a slight problem, but like in a vacuum, if you're hand trapping the deck, you're technically giving me more attributes, so it's like 50-50, I guess. Shifter's a little annoying, but like the Plunder cards can play under Shifter because you just make a dark now, which
Okay.
like a lot of the decks that play Shifter don't have darks, so it's a big like helpful thing. But that's why I like the deck. It's just good to play. It feels
So,
good to play
and
anyway.
I was gonna say so is this more of a going second build, or does it really not matter?
This deck, it was made to go second, this specific list, but 2 of the games I chose to go first. One because Pittman said, "I bet you cannot go first, and when we play in the finals, I'm gonna make you go first." And I said, "Okay, you want to bet?" And we were in the Discord call, and I told him, "Bet I won't go first," and he said, "Bet you won't." And I pressed first, and I 2-0 swept Charlie. So it is what it is. But the deck's not bad going first either, just because like
You
theoretically every card
like
can be a discard. So
I couldn't see no weakness. I thought it was I thought it was flawless. Like I'm like, what can he possibly do wrong? Like what is the deck? When does it slow down? Like every match, you just continuously just all gas, no brakes, all gas, no brakes. Like even in the finals, I'm like evenly lava golem, and then you would just you had like one card in your hand at one point, and just end up with like 5 at the end of the turn with the full
yeah.
board.
Well, so like the Plunder deck itself will always gain a lot of cards really fast because like I think it's kind of cool with how they designed the deck. In media, like if you ever think of like goblins, they like there's always like a lot of them because they reproduce really fast, and so this deck it gains advantage really fast. So like I just thought it was cool how they made that into like an archetype, and then they made the deck a goblin deck. I just think it's funny. Um, but the deck gains a lot of cards really easily. Um, I really like the addition of like Rainbow Bridge and stuff too, just becoming like one of the best discards too. Uh, Thrust, I guess, underperformed a little bit, but like it was fine for what it was. Like it was just there. Um, the hand traps super underperformed to say the truth. Like that card was terrible. Those cards were
Yeah.
terrible. I probably wouldn't play them again. Wright won me a game because he shifted me. Ryan shifted me.
So
That was cool.
if there was anything about this deck, what would you change? Like,
I just wanted to see how good the right cards were within the format. They're playable. They're not like unplayable by any means. Like because they just do a lot by themselves and they just get you a lot of advantage. But I probably wouldn't take them to another tournament. The hand traps in the side deck I would probably change because they just underperformed.
okay.
Rivalry was good because you can token lock them, so you can lock them into fiends. If I were to do anything, yeah. So if you read Yord, it gives them a fiend token of like whatever attribute. So you can theoretically side in rivalry going first after taking out like a lot of the going second cards. Because if you look at the ratio of like hand traps in the deck, it lines up exactly with how many cards you're supposed to side out going second. So you're supposed to side out like triple evenly, triple lava golem, put in the 6, and then the rivalry and the nibs become the right cards. It's exactly enough to where like you can put those cards in, take those cards out, and then if you like do the draw 6 combo on your turn 1 and hit rivalry, you just token lock them and you just have a pseudo FTK that can't be like you can't get evenly lightning stormed They can't summon Fenrir, they can't summon Unicorn or any of these cards that normally would out the floodgates. So you're just like so much further ahead than your opponent, and then you start winning for no reason.
Okay, and this is actually this question is actually for both of you guys. I had a couple people ask me. We'll start with you first, Hunter. How do you think this deck would perform at Nats? Because there are people that are thinking about playing this. I'm reading off some questions that I got.
I feel that every deck has a similar power level at the current moment of time. Every single deck has its inherent weaknesses, and how you can, as a player, exploit that weakness is going to prove if you will prove if your deck gets the top cut or even tries to win the event. But I think the deck in theory is fine.
Okay. And for Tino, so with Dragon Link, somebody said, do you think Dragon Link has enough juice to at least day 2 at Nats, or should I not play it? Is it a deck meant for people who are skilled with it?
I think Dragon Link definitely rewards the player. I think you can build a deck for the meta, but again, I personally believe we're kind of in like it's a very sporadic meta. There are too many decks that are good, so I feel like anything you play, you kind of just have to build your main deck very solid, and then my side deck is more or less geared to just the things that I lose to. I feel like it's not necessarily like a triangle format, but there are a lot of things that are very good. And realistically, moving into the YCS, it's hard to even prepare for a certain deck. You just kind of have to hope, not necessarily that you get good matchups, but that your deck is geared for whatever you're playing against. I've seen examples even at like the previous YCS where, I played like 9 to 11 cashiers, and there's certain people who played like 1 or 2, even though that deck was the most popular in the room. So I think the deck is definitely very viable. But again, depending on what you go against and what their main decking and side decking, because every deck has numerous variations to play it. I've seen every meta deck have going second variations, going first variations. So it's almost as if you can't necessarily build for everything. So you just have to be prepared for what you lose to exactly. But I definitely think Dragon Link can be a contender. I would highly just suggest that you build for what you believe you would be most comfortable with and most consistent with.
I like that logic.
Okay.
I think it's good logic.
And so I have another question for Hunter. So it said, when you created this list, did you put a lot of time in coming up with the ratios, or was anything kind of random? Because it looks like it's well put together, but at the same time, 60 card decks can be thrown together.
So a lot
But
of
the
these
fact that you
ratios
won tells me you put a lot of effort into it.
So a lot of these ratios, they've been a lot of things I've proven in previous tournaments. So if you notice, like I've been playing this deck for a very long time. This is one of my the Plunder Patrol deck has always been one of my favorite decks. Ever since it came out. It's just I would always play it at like regionals as like a pet deck, if that makes sense. So like I've topped every Florida regional with Plunder for the past like year and a half, except for this last one that we had at Prodigy Games. That's the only one I didn't top at. Yeah, and that was just because I had I played against Flu, and that matchup was like literally unwinnable. But like inherently, I don't. A lot of the time, I've noticed that these are just like the correct ratios that you would want to play. Just because even though you're playing such a high card count, mathematically everything will full out or like play out as you wish it to. So like the fact that there's like 21 Runick cards in your deck, so 1/3 of your deck is Runick, 1/6 of your deck is a Plunder card, because you only want to see like 1 to 2 Plunder cards per ratio. And then the rest of your cards are just like good going second cards that you'll see, like, because now after that you have like a 1/6, so you want to see like 2 Plunder card or 1 to 2 Plunder cards, 2 to 3 Runick cards, and like 1 to 2 going second cards, and then you just be fine. So like everything, all of that is just like mathematically tested.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna do one more question each for both of you. This one's gonna be so Tino, I'm about to do one for you. You guys said, will you be doing any combo videos of Dragon Link, and how were you able to win some of your matchups that may have not been in your favor?
I was thinking about doing a few Dragon Link combos, but with this variation of the list, it's fairly standard. And to do a combo video where I'm like, yeah, this is seal pass, and try to explain how that's enough is gonna be rough to kind of articulate. But yeah, I was definitely going to do that, but I was going to work with my brother more on the list and see what's going to be appropriate for the upcoming meta. Because last thing you want to do is put out a combo video and people take the list to an event and you're getting shifted to death. So we'll have to see what's going to be most applicable for the upcoming format, and then definitely put out a combo video for the unfavorable matchups. I think it just kind of comes down to you as a player. Again, if there's like certain matchups you're unfamiliar with, normally the Bystials are just very, very good. Again, if it's Cash, it's a different story. But sometimes you just have to learn when to play your deck for the advantage to like come to you, if that makes any sense. Like I knew when I was playing Hunter in the finals, all my Bystials are dead. I can't do anything against his deck. I kind of just have to see if I can maintain resources, because that deck is going to out-resource me. My brother Bradley, he played like a 60 card list, which would have probably been a bit more decent against him, because we don't necessarily get tortured by the Runick cards too quickly. I have a little bit more to work with. But yeah, that's just a mismatch. I went into that finals knowing this is going to be rough. I don't know what any of the Plunder cards do, and I'm fairly certain if you ask Hunter, that's probably something that's already good going into. People are trying to interact with cards that they don't understand what half of them are actually doing, and by the time you end up expending your resources trying to stop the strategy, the Runick cards and the Brave Engine will probably just take over by themselves. But I think for a lot of the rogue matchups, you just kind of have to use your resources like seldomly, if that makes any sense. Like I won't commit too much. I'll kind of just use Levianeer, or just use cards that my opponent will have to end up committing things to, and that's where Dragon Link can kind of end up taking the turn, if it makes any sense. And that's the reason that we chose the list that we went with, is very, very mid-range. So you can really play like more of a Bystial control, where I'm committing bodies, and the Bystials are all big, so you can like end up going to battle phase where people have to use their resources on essentially vanillas, or again if they end up just getting stopped by basic things like the Bystial Trap and Spheres and Savage Dragon, the next turn you can almost just kill them. So for the unfavorable matchups, you kind of have to like decide what matchup it is and exactly how to play the deck. But I can't pinpoint a specific deck and tell you how to play it against, because if you end up playing against Marincess, or if you end up playing against something that's like super rogue, you just gotta be aware of what your deck is, and the limits of what it can actually do going first and second. So
I agree with that statement. It also helps that if you know how to play.
Tino, I'm gonna give you one more question before I get Hunter Lloyd his last question. I'm sorry, guys. My microphone's lagging, so it comes in a little late.
I was gonna say, you've kind of been like on a delay this entire stream, but
but so Santino, somebody said, what is the ideal deck list count for Dragon Link, like the number of cards you run? And will you be taking this to Nats? I'm sorry if you have already answered this question, but I didn't hear it.
No, that's okay. Again, I think for the Nationals format, you know, it may be 60. I was just debating on potentially just putting a bunch of resources and just letting, you know, I'm saying, the deck just do what it do and just try to play through anything and everything. But with a lot of, you know, kind of not necessarily soft locks in the game, but with things like Dimension Shifter and, you know, just other, like, you know, things like a Rise Heart. Sometimes it doesn't matter how many resources you have. You know, if your deck just can't out those cards, you can't out those cards. So that those things make you want to just play a smaller deck list where you can see certain non-engine cards like talents. So it's very, you know, it's kind of hard to call right now, even though there's like a few weeks away. I think if you are considering Dragon Link, you just kind of have to pick a strategy and adapt to it best, because it doesn't really matter what deck you prepare for. You could just end up not playing that deck. There are way too many decks in the meta right now. So I just think that you need to find a very good, solid, you know, going first strategy. Make your main deck just as fortified as possible, and just your side deck equipped to make sure that it can answer anything that you could possibly lose to. So, like, my side deck was not even really catered to benefit me. I think my only going first card was like anti-spell, because that's just very good against everything. I can't even like side a card to like combat a deck, because, you know, God forbid you just don't play that matchup and you've got something in your side deck that'll just never come in. So it's just like a lot of general cards that go in, and a lot of them are just to beat the things that are kind of just there to FTK you going first. So. But I was gonna say, a solid number be anywhere from like 40 to 50.
Go to Hunter
It just
Lloyd.
depends on the number, and
more like two questions.
I was just gonna say, yeah, going first. I could tell any Dragon Link player, if you're going first, just build the biggest possible board as you can. That's about it. Normally, if you start getting hand trapped, you know, seal pass. I'm not gonna say is the best thing ever, but I think that strategy's shown itself numerous times. So people are aware of how strong that is in terms of not only disruption but follow up. So I would just try to build the biggest board, and normally people will commit resources, whether it's hand traps or board breakers, to stop that. But like I say, it's layered interruption, and that's what you have to understand about Dragon Link. Is even within the simplicity of the board that you're putting up, there's a lot of follow up and a lot of disruption that can be, you know, brought up under it if you understand how to navigate the deck really well. So something that looks very weak can actually be extremely potent, you know, if you understand your deck and what it's capable of. So you got to understand when to turn the switch on and off in terms of offense and defense. So I think that's what the deck's really good. But again, you know, it complements the player. You got to be aware of every situation. So.
Okay. So for you, Hunter, guy says it's a couple questions. One, do you give out lessons on, was it Medify? With the
No, I don't do
Yu-Gi-Oh
Medify.
site where they're giving out lessons on there. And
no, I don't.
The second question is, okay,
You need to do a Medify on that Plunder deck. Nobody know how to beat that.
All right, and then the other question is, if you were to go to an event tomorrow, would you run this Plunder list, and will we see you in the next Tournament of Power? Of course, you're going to see him.
Yeah, I'll play in the next Tournament of Power. I don't mind that. It probably wouldn't be this exact Plunder list though. Like, there's a lot of things that can obviously be improved on and are obviously like dependent on the format. So like, it all just depends on what you're playing, really. Because like certain cards are obviously better than others, so you just have to figure out what's good and what's not at the moment.
Alrighty then. So guys, thank you for having both of you on the channel. Santino for getting second place, Hunter for getting first place. I appreciate all the support. I can't wait for the next Tournament of Power. Hunter, after I end the live, I gotta go over a couple things with you. It's gonna hold you up for like another minute or two. But this has been really exciting. A lot of people have been waiting for your deck list. I will be uploading the actual picture of the deck list on my YouTube channel. So hopefully you want to learn how to play the deck. Maybe you guys can message Hunter for some pointers. And if you guys, those of you that wanted the
Pull your
Dragon
inbox up.
deck list, you guys can, message Tino for his deck list and things of
Don't
that
do
sort.
that.
Maybe some combo videos or whatever you've been wanting to see. Any tips or whatever, Tino and Hunter. Yeah. I'm pretty sure both will be at Nats. But guys, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed what you see. Thank you to both of them for participating in the tournament. Until we meet again, guys. Thank you. And this is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sports Center.